work. And then we have those audited by an external auditing company on a periodic basis. And you as customers can get that report and then see in detail how all the procedures work within the Amazon data centers. ISO 27001 is a standard set of controls. And again, we've achieved that certification, and you can get the reports based on that. PCI Level 1 service provider is, of course, really important. We have one of our customers is actually Amazon.com. And it is, of course, really important to make sure that people can run their e-commerce operations or any other payment systems on top of this platform. There's 2 documents on the security center of AWS. One of them is the security document that goes into detail for each of the services, exactly how that service handles security. And the other document then is the compliance document, which goes into detail about these compliance that we have been able to achieve, the certification that we have achieved. But also in the compliance document is a set of 34 commonly asked questions around compliance. And these are the questions, you can't read them. But if you take that document, they'll go into detailed answers for each of those questions. So another area where I see that's a bit of a step up, I see in the past year that our customers have been building increasingly sophisticated applications. Yeah? Really using the tools that we've given them to build highly available applications. And so this is sort of focusing on the next generation of business continuity planning. I just spent a week in Japan. It's obviously a very hot topic among CIOs there. Because they not only are looking in ways that they can do business continuity within Japan, but also how they can actually use tools and services to be able to, for example, move to either the west coast of the US or to move to Singapore in case that true disasters hit and they need to be able to restart their business outside of Japan. Yeah, so. And although traditional business continuity has all been about, let's be able to restart your enterprise within 24 hours. I think that's, again, part of this old style of IT. The new style of IT is really, how can we make sure that each of our business units has exactly the business continuity that they need? Yeah, there may be business units in your organization that can never be down, because being down means a significant financial loss for the corporation. Yet there may be other business units that even if they would disappear for a week, nobody would notice them. Yeah? Of course, not in your organization, and of course also not in Amazon, but there may be some of those. Yeah? Anyway, the idea there is that there is variability in the requirements of each business unit with respect to business continuity. And while in the past, yeah, there was one business continuity strategy for the whole corporation and everybody had to adapt to it. And there's also a strategy that was not testable, because it was very hard to do that for every different business unit. Using the cloud to power business continuity allows you to test that and allows you to actually do that for each different business unit. So let's review a few of the pieces that Amazon has. I think there's 5 different dimensions of business continuity, not only reliability, yeah, guaranteeing performance to your customers as well, be able to do this at scale, ensuring that you're always safe and that always you are protected, as well as that you have to do all of these things at a particular price point. And that's very important. I think all of these 5 dimensions play a role in business continuity. And of course, many of the applications, many of the services within AWS have all of these features built into them. For example, S3 and SimpleDB, we take care of the scaling and of the reliability of those services. Yeah, you just use the service interface. But some other services, such as Amazon EC2, customers are running their own applications there. But can you make use of some of the facilities that we give them to also build highly available applications? Yeah, and one area where we're using third-party software is, for example, in the Relational Database service. And there were 2 areas where traditional the database software itself doesn't really satisfy the customer's needs. So we've added to RDS multi-AZ deployment. That means that we've built a synchronous replication protocol that keeps 2 of these databases in 2 different availability zones in sync, such that customers that need relational databases as the back end of their operation can still make use of the multi-availability zone features. And we also added read replicas to make sure that they could scale in each of those availability zones. Yeah, so often we think about cloud as something that is really, really opaque. Yeah, and to be honest, if I would use would access my email service, I don't really care where those servers are. I just want it to work. But as application developers and as users of the cloud, you need to have control over that. Yeah? One of them is, for example, around latency. You need to be able to place your application somewhere in the world, depending on where your customers are. But there may be, at the same time, you have compliance regulations that force you to also restrict maybe where you can place those instances. And we expose in each of those regions the local cost that we are experiencing there. Yeah? And so you get to trade off, for example, performance versus cost. Yeah? You may want to deliver a very low latency at the best cost point that you can get and then determine where in the world you're going to run your applications. And it doesn't matter which of those regions you pick, they are uniform. So once you've developed something for, let's say, for the European region, you can just take up that application and run them in any of the other regions without, let's say, technical modifications. Yeah, you may want to configure them slightly different, but that's something else. Availability zones is a really important concept in all of those. We provide strong isolation between availability zones such that customers can build highly available applications. So what does that really mean? Yeah, the fault separation in these availability zones at first means that they are physically separate buildings. Yeah? Secondly, they're on separate floodplains. They're in seismic stable areas. Yeah? Each of them has their own uninterruptible power supplies, their own backup generators, and each of them are connected to separate power grids. Yeah? And then, of course, each of them, again, are connected to multiple redundant tier 1 networks. That means that if you need to build your applications on top of this, that's a unique power that you have. And young businesses can make use of this, and this is just an example of a very small startup that has already built their online service using the availability zones. But, and we give lots of advice in our architecture center actually about how to use all of these high availability features. But many of our enterprise customers are actually saying, well, that's nice, all this availability zone stuff, but you know what? That's if you do development. Yeah, that's if you build your applications yourself. That's not us. We actually buy them. Yeah? And it turns out that many of our partners have created their software such that they can also exploit the same features. Yeah? So Oracle, as well as SAP in the past year, have made all of their software certified for production on AWS. So if you want to use SAP or Oracle on the AWS platform, you will get support for that from their vendors. And so, for example, this is Oracle eBusiness Suite. Runs easily in 2 availability zones, using data card between them, and then actually backing up into Amazon S3 for long-term durability. Advanced Innovations is a global supply chain company. They have built their whole business on top of AWS. Yeah, this is a complete enterprise solution running on top of AWS using only off-the-shelf software. Yeah? All of their business-critical processing sits on top of AWS using Oracle and Microsoft technologies. And so they've actually gone one step further. They want to ensure that they can actually survive any type of disaster. And they're backing up all of the US region into Europe, and the European region, they're backing it up into the US, such that if, for example, Ireland would disappear off the map of the Earth, then they can restart the European operation from the US. Yeah, and they're using standard off-the-shelf tool, in this case, or a data guard to do that particular backup. Yeah, so I think cloud plays a really important role in terms of this always-on enterprise. So let me skip a bit forward, go a bit faster here. I've always used too many words, so I'm always getting too stressed at the end. Yeah. A bit of my experiences in the past year with CIOs and how I see how they are using the cloud. So I've seen that cloud has actually sort of a two-tier strategy there. One of them is an immediate action plan. So anything that is internet-facing, such as marketing campaigns and things like that, should move to the cloud immediately. It's a no-brainer. And at the same time, they're building a sort of a plan about how their staff can get early experiences with